like this video, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. It's gonna help us, and it's also gonna help you to get more great content. God bless. Enjoy this next video. Thanks for tuning in to another video tutorial. What we're gonna be talking about is tritone substitution, which is a very good subject to talk about because it's gonna help you to understand, how certain passing chords and different approaches work when it comes down to chord progressions. To refresh your memory, if you don't know what a tritone is, and if this is your first time watching this video, a tritone basically is an interval of a 1 and flat 5. So if we look at C as like the root note, right? A tritone interval would be the flat 5. So if we know that C is the 1, right? And then G is the 5, then the tritone would be the flat 5, which would be G flat, because G is the 5th tone of the C scale. And when you flat it, you have G flat. Now, a tritone can also be looked at as an interval that's made up of 3 whole tones or whole steps. So if you actually look at the distance between C and G flat, which is at 1 and flat 5 interval, or you can also call this the diminished 5th interval, but it's made up of 3 whole tones. So from C to D, that's 1 whole tone or whole step. And then from D to E, that's another whole step. And then from E to G flat, that's another whole step. So if you don't even know what a whole step is versus a half step, a whole step is basically means you have 1 note in between the next note. So it's a whole step because you're actually gonna be skipping a note. When you go to the very, very next note, that's a half step. So this is something that everyone should know. From C to D flat, that's considered a half step because you're going to the neighboring tone. And even if you come down from C to B, that's a half step. But whenever you go to another note and you have 1 in between, that's called a whole step. So from C to D is a whole step because we skipped to D flat. Now, another thing that you should know before we get busy is there are only 6 unique tritones. And that's because, with any chord, let's say, for example, C major or a major chord, right? If you take a major chord up half steps, you're gonna find that you have a different major chord in a unique different set of notes. So say, for example, if I start with a C major chord and then go up a half step, we'll have a D flat major chord, then a D major chord, then an E flat major chord, then an E major chord, then an F major chord, then a G flat major chord, then a G major chord, then an A flat major chord, then an A. So basically, when you take one chord up half steps, you have a unique number of notes that don't repeat themselves. But with a tritone, when you start to do that and you take it up half steps, you're gonna find that eventually the notes are gonna repeat themselves. So, like, let's say, for example, let's say we start with C and G flat, and we go up half steps. Once we get to this point, it repeats itself. We got G flat and C all over again. It's just rearranged. So once we go up 6 times, after we get past 6, a lot of the tones are gonna repeat themselves. So you see we have C and G flat right here, and then the next one is D flat and G, and then the next one is D and A flat. But once we get past 6, it's gonna repeat themselves. The only difference is that the lowest note is gonna be up top. So instead of C being at the bottom, once we get past, let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Once we get past the 6th tritone, and I'm gonna count the first one. So that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Once we get past 6, remember I said there are only 6 unique tritones, because after that we're gonna start all over. You can see right here we got G flat and C. And then when we go up another half step, we have G and D flat, which is the same as this. And then we have A flat and D, which is the same as this. So basically, if you didn't notice that, they just repeat themselves over and over. So you don't have to really learn too many. Like, all you got to do is learn the inversions of them, but then also learn what tones they work with. So a tritone for a specific tone, when you're playing dominant chords, you're gonna find tritones used more so for dominant 7 types of chords. Now, if you wanna find a tritone for a specific tone, like let's say you're on a certain bass note and you wanna find a tritone that works with that particular bass note, like I said, tritones work very well with dominant sounding chords. So if you wanna play 2-hand chord voicings and you're playing like a dominant 7 type of chord, for example, let's say you're playing a C chord, right? And you don't want to just play a C, you want to give it a more jazzier, bluesier sound. Well, you can play a tritone for C, right? And how you would find a tritone for any particular tone is, it's going to be the 3rd and flat 7th of the tone that you're on, of the root note. So if we were trying to find a C tritone, then you would find the 3rd and flat 7th of the C scale. And that would be E and B flat. So this is the tritone for C. So that's a technical way of finding it if you're looking for a specific tritone for a specific bass note. So whenever you play a C chord and you want to make it sound bluesier, or if that's even a word, you can play a tritone in the left hand. So now we have a C dominant 7 chord, and we just played a tritone in our left hand and then a C major chord in our right, and that instantly gives us a fuller sound. So that's how you can find a tritone, you know, for a specific chord, and these are used a lot in traditional music. Do you like what you see on this channel? Do you want to help us to grow? Then do me a favor, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. That way you don't miss out on any more of the great content we got coming your way.